The most popular girl in class keeps a list, and it's filled with all the guys who are trying to win her over. She updates the rankings on this list every day, based on each guy's performance. Everyone jokingly calls it the simp leaderboard. I privately vented, what kind of quality guy would let his dignity be trampled on like that? When word got back to the class beauty, she said, Sienna is right. You really should look for a man with some self-respect. Just a few days later, she very publicly announced her relationship with the rich Arab. Then, one of her obsessive admirers snapped and kidnapped me. He locked me in the equipment room and subjected me to every kind of humiliation and abuse. It's all because you couldn't keep your mouth shut. You ruined my chance for a fair competition. Just die. When I opened my eyes again, the class bell was announcing, I'm going to create a boys' ranking list, so everyone can compete fairly. 1. The classroom erupted in cheers. Some were excited, some were dismissive, but most were just there out of sheer curiosity. The class beauty, Isabella, lifted her chin and declared proudly, I'm not that kind of gold-digging woman. What I value is sincerity. I'll post fairly and publicly on my social feed about how anyone treats me. Feel free to call me out, or just rate my performance. Her words sent a fresh wave of energy through the room. In my past life, when I heard that, I scoffed at her, a wolf in sheep's clothing, through. Later, when those guys were scrambling to show off for a spot on the leaderboard, I mocked them again. Have they no shame? What kind of quality man would trample his own dignity underfoot just to chase after a woman? Back then, I didn't realize that Isabella's true intentions lay elsewhere. Her real target was George, the rich kid in our department, but George was surrounded by far too many beautiful women. If she didn't stand out, she had no chance of catching his eye. That's why Isabella deliberately brought this matter of inciting male rivalry into the open. It was all to demonstrate just how much charm she truly possessed. This time, I simply averted my gaze, kept my mouth shut, and quietly lowered my head to read. From across the crowd, Isabella called out to me loudly, Sienna, how about you be on my panel? Hearing this, most of the people in the classroom looked over in our direction. Suppressing my anger, I kept my expression calm and continued turning the pages of my book. Isabella chimed in again. You have the sharpest eye for people. My future happiness is in your hands, sis. Remembering what happened in my past life, this time I just wanted to stay far, far away. Yeah, I'm gonna have to pass on that. Someone egged her on. Come on, Sienna, don't be modest. Even the gorgeous Isabella says you're up for it. Yeah, you share a dorm with the stunning Isabella, so your opinion is way more objective. I put down my book, looking embarrassed. Really, I can't. I'm no good at judging men. I like women, too. A few hours later, two pieces of news were spreading like wildfire across campus. The first was the hot guys list Isabella had posted on her social media. The other was my public coming out. Of course, my situation only caused a minor ripple. Everyone's focus remained on the list that Isabella posted. My classmates jokingly called it the school's first ever simp list. Surprisingly, there were far more people competing for a spot on Isabella's ranking list than in her previous life. She exclaimed in the dorm, why are so many people adding me? Her roommate Phoebe kept staring at her with a look that was a mix of envy and jealousy. I focused on my homework, but couldn't help feeling a pang of emotion inside. Isabella is being so conspicuous. She's completely unaware that a whole group of girls at school are seething with resentment because the guys they have crushes on are fawning all over her. Isabella is now lounging comfortably in bed, the tablet she's using, the rug by her bed, the skincare products on her desk, all gifts from her simps over the past few days. Phoebe said with a hint of jealousy, I thought you said you weren't a gold digger. Isabella immediately posted on her social media, are these basic daily necessities really considered extravagant gifts now? I had no idea. Was I raised with too much privilege? Or do others simply receive too little love? The accompanying image is of a crying teddy bear. Not long after, Phoebe's phone rang. She glanced at it, then abruptly stood up, her cheeks flushed, and ran out of the room clutching her phone. But it wasn't long before she returned, her eyes red. Zoe asked, what's wrong? Phoebe bit her lip and, without a word, pulled the bed curtain shut. Before long, the sound of stifled sobbing could be heard. Isabella answered the phone in a coquettish tone. I'm not angry at all. Is this your true heart? But I see so many true hearts before me, really. Yours seems more sincere. My pen paused for 2 seconds, but I still didn't look up. It wasn't until Isabella called out to us in the dorm, they're treating everyone to KTV tonight. Let's all go. The they she was referring to were obviously those simps. Phoebe ignored her. I wrinkled my nose. I'm not going. I'm not a fan of that manly musk smell. No matter how much Isabella tried to persuade me, I stubbornly refused to go. Finally, she looked at me thoughtfully and said with a smile, Sienna, I never would have guessed you were into girls. You're not jealous, are you? I asked, puzzled. Why would I be jealous? Isabella held up her fingers one by one. First, are you jealous that so many guys are after me? Or second, is it that the guy you like is chasing me too? Is that why you can't handle it and just decided to call yourself a lesbian? I rolled my eyes in exasperation. That's completely unnecessary. I'm not into guys. Besides, I'm attracted to intelligence. Isabella's face flushed and then paled upon hearing my words. When she left, she didn't call for me or Phoebe again. 3 that evening, Phoebe suddenly said, Sienna, have you seen Isabella's social media post? I shook my head and picked up my phone to check her profile. What did she post? Isabella's latest social media post is a side profile photo of me reading in the dorm. Her caption reads, what do I do? The brilliant girl says she only notices guys with brains. Wah, does she think I'm shallow? Below, a chorus of simps rushed to offer their consolation. Wait, I thought she was gay. How come she's interested in a guy now? If she had any brains, she'd be at Tsinghua or Peking University. What's she doing at a regular school like ours? Don't cry, Isabella. You'll always be the most beautiful in my eyes. I was trembling all over with rage. Phoebe called out to me from across the way. Watch what you say from now on. She's not a good person. After taking several deep breaths, I finally managed to calm down. I had no mind for reading that evening and went to bed early. Staring at the ceiling, I kept asking myself over and over in my head, why did you have to go and provoke her? Didn't you learn your lesson the first time? The best strategy is to steer clear. From that night on, I made a conscious effort to keep an even greater distance from Isabella. I make it a rule not to respond to anything she says unless absolutely necessary. If a reply is unavoidable, I'll think it over again and again every day. I cross off another date in my notebook. In 47 days, she'll announce her relationship with that rich kid. When that day comes, I'll finally be free. Unlike my cautious nature, Isabella's life visibly became more comfortable and fulfilling. True to her word that day, she began publicly and impartially rating the boys' performances. Each day, 9 people were selected for the leaderboard, with their actions illustrated by corresponding pictures, posted in a 9-grid layout on my social media feed. Thanks to all that attention from the guys, our whole dorm's standard of living shot straight up. 3 breakfasts every morning, 3 bubble teas every afternoon, and 3 fruit platters every evening. Someone delivered them without fail. Not to mention, Isabella only had to say the word. Someone immediately sent over 3 top-ups for the Black Myth Wukong account. Isabella said with an air of superiority, we're all in the same dorm. I don't mind letting you have a little advantage. I flatly refused all of it. I'd always make excuses. My period, a stomachache, or an allergy. As for video games, I was too busy with my studies to have any energy left for them. The memories from my past life were etched deeply in my heart. I don't want anything more to do with Isabella, for the accident happened with 33 days left on the countdown, and George, the rich kid, was chatting with a few other guys in the hallway. I was just passing by. A guy pointed at me and said, aren't you in the same class as that girl from the simp list? What's your name again? George glanced over lightly and said, Tisk, top 3 in their class. Sienna, he called out. Sienna. I didn't respond, only gave a slight nod before quickly quickening my pace to get away from them, but I could feel them pointing at me and talking. It wasn't until I stepped into the classroom that I finally let out a sigh of relief, but when I turned my head, I saw Isabella staring at me with a dark look in her eyes, not saying a word. My heart skipped a beat. I shot back a puzzled look. Isabella gave a thin, insincere smile, turned away without a word. For the next 2 days, I would jolt awake even in my sleep. Phoebe looked at my pale face with concern. You've been having nightmares these past few nights, mumbling something about it not being your fault. Is something wrong? I didn't say anything, just stared blankly at a water glass on Isabella's desk. Phoebe followed my gaze and pursed her lips. I don't know what's gotten into her. She usually only accepts designer brands, but today she brought home a water bottle from some no-name brand. A chill ran through me. I knew exactly who had given her that water bottle. 5. In my past life, there weren't that many guys clamoring to compete for a spot on Isabella's list. The regulars numbered only about 5 or 6. Among them was one guy who, under the banner of his true love for Isabella, would fawn over her relentlessly, day in and day out. And in that past life, the one I looked down on the most was precisely this guy, Caleb. He had the top score when he got into our department. He's a tall guy, but his family's had it rough. I heard from classmates that Caleb's dad is disabled and his mom has been sick for years. This left the family in a constant state of financial hardship, yet he was hopelessly in love with Isabella. To secure a top spot on Isabella's list, he worked himself to the bone, taking on endless jobs just to buy her gifts. In my past life, I looked down on people like him. I'm fighting for my family's future, yet I have to waste my energy on other people's jokes. When the classmates started gossiping, I didn't hold back. Are you out of your mind? Later, Isabella and George made their relationship official. The one who showed the most hatred towards me was Caleb. It was Caleb who came up with the idea to tie me up in the equipment room. He was convinced that my comments were the reason Isabella completely lost respect for him. This, in turn, led Isabella to start dating George. This water bottle was the very first gift Caleb gave to Isabella in their past life, yet, in all this time, Caleb's name had never once appeared on Isabella's list, so why would she suddenly take notice of someone like him? I was lost in these thoughts when Isabella walked in. She smiled and said, "Sienna, you absolutely have to come with me to the cafeteria today. I have a surprise for you." I was about to refuse, but when I looked up, I saw a mischievous glint in her eyes. Better to be open than underhanded. We're just going to the cafeteria anyway. I'm curious to see what she's up to. She was absolutely thrilled to see me agree. She recorded the whole way with her phone. This is my life vlog. Isabella gave a running commentary as she led me up to the second floor of the cafeteria. My eyes went straight to the four-person table by the window, where only one person was sitting. Isabella led me to that table, her voice brimming with barely contained excitement. Surprise, this is the guy I scoured the entire school to find for you. He's your perfect match, and he's got the brains to go with it. Sienna, how can you know you only like girls if you've never even tried being with a guy? 6. The noisy cafeteria fell silent in an instant. Countless pairs of eyes fixed on us. A surge of white-hot fury shot straight to the top of my head. I struggled to keep my composure, watching Caleb sit expressionless in the chair, his gaze fixed directly on me. I asked, "Caleb, did you know Isabella asked you here for this?" He was taken aback for a moment, then shook his head hesitantly. I turned and asked Isabella, "So, the surprise you mentioned was trying to set me up with Caleb?" She's still adjusting the angle to get the shot. "Yeah. Are you happy?" "Happy my ass. Do you think I should be happy?" Isabella asked in an innocent, almost naive tone. "Are you unhappy? Isn't Caleb good enough?" At those words, Caleb's eyes darkened. The look he gave me was tinged with mockery and resentment. I bit my tongue discreetly, the sharp pain helping to steady my nerves. "Caleb, you know I like girls, right?" He averted his gaze, his brow furrowing as if he'd just heard something filthy. I turned my eyes back to Isabella, pointing at Caleb. "You knew I liked girls, and you still tried to set me up with Caleb. He's the smartest person in our class. If you mess up his grad school prep, can you even take that responsibility?" Isabella was left speechless. I turned to Caleb again. "Isabella might be a little too invested in your life's big decisions, but I'm gay. I feel that not telling you would be no different from deceiving you for love or marriage. Caleb, someone as wonderful as you shouldn't have their feelings tarnished." I bowed deeply to him. "As Isabella's roommate, I apologize to you on her behalf. I hope you won't blame her. She just has too many suitors, so she wishes everyone could have a happy life like hers. You're wonderful. It's just, I'm into women." Isabella got flustered, turned off her phone, rushed over, and shoved me. "What nonsense are you talking? That's not what I think at all." She shoved me, throwing me off balance. My eyes widened in shock. "Then, why, people like us, who only know how to bury our heads in books, you can't possibly be doing this just to toy with us, just for fun, can you?" 7. My voice rose with each accusatory question I hurled at her. The cafeteria was buzzing with whispers and gossip. Countless people surrounded us, taking photos and videos. Isabella's face flushed bright red, biting her lip in frustration. She said, "I just wanted you to be happy." I said disapprovingly, "Isabella, I like women, I'm gay, you know that. Do you really think we could be happy together like this? Aren't you just hurting him? How can you live with yourself?" Caleb was visibly shaken by my words, his eyes snapping up to fix a tight gaze on Isabella. Isabella stamped her foot in a petulant, coquettish manner. "Oh, that was just me being impatient in the moment." I shook my head, sighed, and took a step back. You've really been spoiled by all those guys chasing after you." Hearing my words, she became bashful. She completely failed to notice the flicker of pain in the eyes of Caleb, who sat there motionless. It was so profound, so bewildering, and tinged with hatred. I spread my hands. "Isabella, I'm so disappointed in you today. From now on, try not to talk to me." After saying that, I jogged all the way back to the dormitory. Phoebe looked at me as I pushed the door open and asked, in surprise, "You're done eating already?" I shook my head and silently started packing my things. She stared at me, dumbfounded. When I was almost finished packing, I announced, "I'm planning to rent a place off campus. Take care of yourself." Just as I finished packing, Isabella walked through the door. She looked at my suitcases and bags, her expression instantly turning cold. The pretense was over. "Sienna, don't think for a second I don't know who you really are. You're not even gay." My hand paused, but I still didn't speak. She said fiercely, "You're bisexual. I saw you hitting on George the other day. You're just playing the long game, aren't you? So that's why Isabella was acting so strange today. Turns out she sees me as some kind of rival. What an idiot." I sighed inwardly, slung the small bag containing all my documents over my shoulder, ignoring Isabella's resentful glare. "Suit yourself." 8. It's not easy to find a place off campus. By evening, I still hadn't found anything suitable, but I couldn't stand being in the same room with Isabella for another second. I went back to the dorm to get my toiletries, planning to rough it in a hotel room for the night. Phoebe wanted to buy some fruit, so she walked out with me. She muttered, "We all paid for our rooms. Why should we give up our dorm for her?" I tried to reason with her. "You should be more careful. If you can't stand it, move out sooner. What's the point in fighting with her?" It took me a whole extra lifetime to finally understand. For someone like Isabella, every single thing she does has a clear purpose. In her past life, she achieved her goal of dating George. She quickly framed her act of making a ranking list as just a joke suggested by her roommate. In the end, George just thought she was a bit mischievous, yet the boy's resentment was directed at us, her roommates, and so I, the one who had once deeply wounded their pride, became the innocent scapegoat. Before Phoebe went back to the dorm, I stopped her. I said seriously, "Really, protect yourself. There's no need to pick a fight with her." But I never expected that very night the trouble would land squarely on Phoebe. The next morning, I arrived at the classroom to find only a handful of classmates present. Those who had shown up immediately huddled together in a small group. They called out to me, "Sienna, what happened in your dorm last night?" I was completely baffled. It was only through my classmates' accounts that I found out late last night, Phoebe actually got into a fight with Isabella in the dorm, and one girl whispered. I happened to wake up and saw them brawling all the way into the hallway. Phoebe was like a madwoman. She completely tore Isabella's clothes off. I was stunned for a moment and asked again to confirm. "Phoebe hit someone." When they nodded in confirmation, my jaw dropped. Phoebe has always been someone who keeps to herself and minds her own business. How could she have gotten into such a serious conflict with Isabella? The girl continued. And then, Phoebe actually called the police. The cops came and took them all away. Otherwise, why hasn't Isabella been bragging about all the attention from her admirers by now? You didn't know. I shook my head. I slept at the hotel last night, and I always turn my phone off at night, I said as I turned on my phone. Sure enough, the content on Isabella's social media feed was still just the simp leaderboard she posted yesterday, her usual daily morning ritual of posting breakfast plus mid-morning snack photo dumps was gone. I asked, "So, how did those guys react?" One guy said, "No idea what happened, but a bunch of those guys got taken away by the police too." The situation with Phoebe and Isabella, how did the boys get involved in this? As we were speculating, the instructor walked into the classroom with a dark expression. "Sienna," the instructor said, "step outside for a moment. Someone's here to see you." Everyone exchanged glances. The person standing behind the instructor, in uniform, was conspicuous. Someone whispered, "What's going on? Why are the police here for Sienna again?" 9. Once I got to the police station, I finally understood what had happened. It turned out Isabella had a group chat with her simps every day. Isabella would flirt and exchange intimate whispers with them in the group. She even posted suggestive, borderline photos and selfies to the group. Last night, Phoebe got up to use the bathroom. She happened to see Isabella's tablet on the table. In a chat window on the tablet, there was a selfie of Isabella. Normally, that wouldn't be a big deal, yet Phoebe couldn't shake the feeling that the black and white checkered pattern in the photo's background looked exactly like her own bedsheet. She couldn't resist and quietly took a closer look. Just as she suspected, it was a selfie of Isabella. Yet she went ahead and posted a clear video of Phoebe changing clothes, and it wasn't just Phoebe's, mine was in there too. The guys saw it and didn't hesitate to start commenting in the group chat. "Sienna's got a huge butt. You can't even tell normally. Phoebe has 2 dimples on her lower back. I've heard people with those are really wild." Seeing all these crude comments people were making, Phoebe was furious right then and there. She yanked Isabella right out of bed. The fight spilled out from the dorm room and into the hallway. So that's how it is. I was absolutely seething. I can't believe Isabella would do something like this. The instructor, however, was on the side trying to reason with them. She just wasn't paying attention while taking a selfie. It wasn't on purpose. Screw that wasn't paying attention nonsense. Once might be an accident, but twice or 3 times, she didn't notice she was filming us. But she couldn't have missed those guys gossiping. Not on purpose. I think she deliberately sold out the other girl's privacy, just to suck up to those guys. I slammed the table in anger, firing back. Phoebe's fury hadn't subsided. She was seething with rage. "You shameless wretch. Have you no self-respect?" If Phoebe hadn't discovered this in time, who knows where those photos would have ended up. I thought of those cases online where girls had their private photos leaked and were then cyberbullied with sexual harassment. I couldn't help but shudder. Phoebe and I were absolutely unwilling to settle. Isabella, however, started sobbing in the police station. I didn't mean it. I really didn't mean it. I'll get down on my knees for you, okay. Tears streamed down her face as she apologized to us over and over. The boys who had been summoned for making lewd remarks glared at us with indignation. How ridiculous. They're the ones who did wrong in the first place, yet somehow were made out to be the bad guys. The instructor also looked displeased and told us to let it go. We're all classmates here. Don't be so aggressive. Phoebe and I were shaking with rage. We were determined to call the police. The officer taking the statement knew the whole story. The looks directed at Isabella and the others were full of disdain. Unfortunately, the incident's impact was too minor. There's really no way to bring charges against these individuals. However, a female police officer spoke with us. They will push for the school to impose internal disciplinary measures as a form of correction and education. Finally, the school promised to give Isabella and those boys a major disciplinary demerit each, and with that, the matter was considered closed. Phoebe and I were furious, yet we understood this was the most severe punishment Isabella and the others could possibly receive. 10. After this incident, I gave up on the idea of moving out. I was determined to dig in my heels and stay in the dorm with Isabella. No matter what, it suddenly dawned on me that simply running away is unlikely to change one's fate. I have to bring Isabella down hard, so she can never hurt me again. That's the only safe way. So, when other classmates asked about our dorm situation again, I told them everything, holding nothing back. Not long after, the school's disciplinary notice was issued. Although the wording was somewhat veiled, everyone understood the message. Isabella claimed she wanted to make the boys compete for her attention, yet she ended up betraying her roommates' privacy to pander to them. Her image took a sharp turn for the worse. Her list was no longer a source of amusement, nor a symbol of her being a formidable, independent woman. It had become a mark of shame. And meanwhile, Caleb, emerging as a dark horse, began appearing around her with increasing frequency. Phoebe would roll her eyes at the mention of them. They're two of a kind, both rotten to the core, yet a wave of icy dread washed over me. Again and again, in my past life, after Caleb kidnapped me, he once vented his feelings for Isabella through gritted teeth. I know his calm now is nothing but a facade. For someone like him, who grew up with severe inferiority complex stemming from poverty, his self-assessment is far lower than the public's opinion of him. To Caleb, Isabella was no different from a celestial fairy descended from the heavens. Now that the fairy was in distress, she was, for once, looking upon him with special favor. Caleb was indescribably thrilled and grateful in his heart. Soon, Caleb became infamous across campus as the ultimate people-pleaser. Having lost her harem, Isabella started bossing Caleb around 10 times worse than before. Phoebe said, "She's just acting out to prove she's still got it." It's seriously messed up. As a result, we'd often see Caleb, juggling classes and his part-time job, rushing frantically from one corner of the campus to another. It was all just to help Isabella pick a special wildflower from a certain spot and take a unique photo. Over time, some girls even started shipping them as a couple. Someone gave Caleb the nickname Isabella's Flower Guardian, replacing the old ultimate simp. But I knew Isabella wouldn't stop there. Caleb has now become his most devoted follower. I can't guarantee that. At some point in the future, Caleb won't do something to me. Sure enough, one day after class, Caleb stopped me. He said, "Can you stop picking on Isabella?" I shot back, "Me, picking on her?" Caleb ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "I know she's made mistakes, but she's changed. Could you please stop freezing her out in the dorm?" I let out a bitter laugh. "Caleb, do you know how many people are in our dorm?" Caleb hesitated before saying, 3. I nodded. "Yes, 3. She took photos of the other 2 and posted them in the simp group chat." "Caleb, we're not isolating her. We're just genuinely scared of her. We don't dare get close, and we don't want anything to do with her." Caleb's face flushed with a mix of anger and embarrassment. I told him with a cold expression, "I'm too busy to have the energy to go after her, and there's no need to either. Besides, I don't even like guys." 11. Ever since that conversation I had with Caleb, he's been kind of avoiding me. Once, I saw Isabella looking at me and saying something to him. Caleb just shook his head slightly, as if trying to dissuade her. The moment we got back to the dorm, Isabella started slamming things around. Phoebe and I exchanged a look and, without a word, both put on our headphones. Isabella, however, marched right up to me. "Sienna, what's your problem?" I asked. "What's your problem?" Isabella stared at me for a long moment, then suddenly looked on the verge of tears. "Why are you picking on me?" Phoebe, standing behind her, made a phone call gesture to me, hinting that Isabella was on a call with someone. I asked gently, "Isabella, are you perhaps overthinking things? We're about to be seniors. We're so busy with schoolwork we don't even have time for that, let alone the energy to pick on anyone." Isabella opened her mouth, putting on an injured look. "Then why didn't you agree to go get the roster with me yesterday when the advisor asked you to?" A memory flashed through my mind. It all came rushing back to me. What happened that day. Originally, the instructor had asked me and Isabella to go get the roster, but then George, who was standing in the hallway, suddenly got the idea and said, "I'll come along." The moment Isabella saw George, her eyes lit up as if she were spellbound. She immediately shot me a sideways glance. I knew exactly what she meant. She didn't want me tagging along, and now she had the nerve to say that. She falsely accused me of not wanting to go with her. To get the roster, I looked at her and raised an eyebrow. I raised my voice. "Wasn't it you who didn't want me there? You were making eyes at George." I wasn't about to go and be a third wheel, but take my advice. Caleb's been plenty good to you. You should appreciate that. That George, he's just got family money. In every other way, he doesn't measure up. Watching her fumble to hang up the phone, I finally stopped talking, taking my sweet time. My eyes were sharp. I spotted the name Caleb on the call screen instantly. A surge of hatred welled up inside me once more. Isabella, she really will stop at nothing to make Caleb despise me. After hanging up, her tone instantly turned vicious. "You did that on purpose?" I shrugged. "Yeah, on purpose." Seeing me admit it so readily, her hands trembled with anger. "Let me tell you something. Stop trying to ruin my reputation," Phoebe said in surprise. "You have a reputation. Everyone knows you used to rank guys, and now you're eyeing the next prize while still holding one. Who are you trying to fool? Take my advice, don't waste your energy. A wealthy family like George's would only ever see you as a fling. There's no way someone like that would ever settle for someone with a tarnished reputation like yours." Isabella was so infuriated by her sharp retort that she stormed off immediately. I gave a thumbs up. The word stain, now that's a masterstroke of phrasing. 12. After our relationship soured again, I thought Isabella would tone it down a bit. To my surprise, she actually turned that simp ranking system she used on guys against us. The difference was, she openly posted a picture of it on her social media feed. At the top, it read, "Unfriendly Girls Ranking." I was given the pseudonym C, and Phoebe was labeled foe. On the list, Isabella gave a comprehensive, tabulated review of our figures, looks, body odor, and personalities. My concluding remark read, "Ice Queen on the outside, freak in the sheets, a total switch." Phoebe's concluding remark read, "Your courage is the only limit to her wildness." Several other girls in the class who didn't get along with her were also named on the list. The moment that list was posted, the whole class erupted. A bunch of girls stormed into our dorm to confront her, only to find she wasn't even there. We took the matter to our instructor. Our instructor looked thoroughly annoyed. She didn't even name names. "Why are you all so sensitive? Wouldn't it be better to focus your energy on your studies? You're about to be a senior. Are you confident about the grad school entrance exam? Do you have any career direction in mind? You've got nothing going for you, and all you do is obsess over a few guys. Is that really interesting?" Phoebe stepped forward, ready to start yelling, but I gently held her back. "Back in the dorm," I said. "What's the point of arguing with him?" Phoebe slammed the table in anger. "She keeps doing this over and over again. I can't take it anymore." I was furious too. The angrier I got, the clearer my mind became. The instructor knew exactly why Isabella had just received a major demerit, yet he still chose to side with Isabella and sweep the matter under the rug. Who in their right mind would be so careless with their own job, unless he's after something? After hearing my analysis, Phoebe clapped her hands together. What else could it be? Isabella must have gotten her hooks into him. After that, we discreetly tailed Isabella for several days. Finally, one afternoon, I managed to snap a photo of them entering the hotel. Phoebe couldn't wait. "Let's report this to the school." I shook my head. "This evidence isn't all that compelling." "Then what should we do? Just swallow our pride and take it?" "No way." I let out a cold laugh. "I remember, the political instructor is married." Phoebe's eyes lit up. "What's the point of reporting him to the school? Telling his wife is what really matters." 13. So, Phoebe and I started looking for the instructor's wife's contact information again. Hard work pays off. After some investigation, we finally discovered a peculiar comment under the instructor's social media account. Bring back a few duck heads. Clicking into the commenter's profile, their pinned post was a photo with the instructor. I created a burner account and sent a friend request. A moment later, they accepted my request. I sent over the photos I had taken. "Watch out for your husband. Frankly, these photos don't amount to a solid case, but in a marriage, nothing is more damaging than broken trust. Once the seed of suspicion is planted in his wife's mind, it's only a matter of time before she uncovers his affair with Isabella." After that, Isabella started acting high and mighty again. She openly declared on her social media that she was living in an environment rife with jealousy. The way Caleb looked at us was growing increasingly hostile. Several classmates reported the matter to our advisor, but every single complaint was dismissed. We knew that by doing this, Isabella was trying to provoke resentment from Phoebe and me first, but we were determined to defy her wishes. As for Isabella, we chose to ignore her. Unexpectedly, Isabella was the first to crack. She took the offensive. One day, she stopped me in my tracks. "So you want to sue me? Go ahead, try it." I stared at her in silence. She gave me a smug smile. "If you ask me, you're just jealous. So many guys are into me, but you don't have a single one chasing after you." Isabella really does live in her own little world of competing with other women. "How pathetic," I said. "Your parents really nailed it with your name." "Huh?" She looked at me with a mixture of wariness and confusion. I explained, Isabella, you idiot, you moron." Phoebe was laughing so hard she was stomping her feet. Isabella was stunned for a moment before it finally clicked. Furious, she came running out after me. She grabbed a slipper and hurled it straight at me. The shot hit me square in the chest, and the pain made me curse out loud. Isabella pointed a furious finger at me. "Fine, just fine, Sienna. You're going to regret this, you bitch." I flipped her the bird. Isabella was so angry. She was on the verge of tears. She ran off with red, teary eyes. Not long after, the instructor called. Phoebe and I were summoned to the office. When we arrived, we saw Isabella standing off to the side, looking wronged. The instructor, as if he'd swallowed gunpowder, launched into a tirade that escalated wildly. I suspected that if we let him go on much longer, he'd somehow trace the root cause of the Middle East conflict back to how we treated Isabella. I said coldly, "If there's a rule you can use to punish me, be my guest. Right now, I have to get to class. I don't have time for this." With that, Phoebe and I turned to leave. The instructor angrily ordered us to stop. "Take one more step, and you can kiss your diplomas goodbye." What a jerk. Using our graduation as a threat. Seeing us halt, the instructor let out a couple of smug chuckles, but just at that moment, an angry woman's voice rang out. "Which one of you is Isabella? Honey, what are you doing here?" The instructor shouted in confusion. Phoebe and I exchanged a look. "Oh, the instructor is toast 14. Isabella is impossible to miss. After all, I had sent the photos over earlier." The instructor's wife had also looked into it. She scanned the office, and her gaze immediately locked onto Isabella standing beside the instructor. Smack. Without a word, the woman stepped forward and slapped Isabella across the face. Isabella let out a shriek before the instructor could even intervene. Her ear was then seized by the woman. Well, Roy, I called you into work, and you're here hitting on girls," the instructor said urgently. "You've got it all wrong. I'm here resolving a student conflict." A woman's voice sneered. "Resolving a conflict? Isn't this the very Isabella you've been exchanging sweet nothings and photos with on WeChat every single day? Do you think I'm a fool? I wouldn't be here if I didn't have proof." With that, the instructor's wife took on both of them single-handedly. She sent the instructor and Isabella scrambling in all directions to avoid getting caught in the crossfire. Phoebe and I had already shrunk back into the corner by the door, watching the woman who had come to catch her cheating partner. Phoebe couldn't help but let out a sigh of admiration. So bold. I, on the other hand, quickly raised my phone to start recording. I sent it straight to the class group chat right after. "Oh no, it looks like Isabella's been hurt. Someone come be the hero and save her." Just a few minutes later, someone came rushing over, and leading the charge was Caleb. He saw us and asked, "What's wrong?" I said with concern, "I don't know what happened. Someone came and made a scene in the instructor's office, and Isabella was crying." Just then, Isabella's pleading voice came from inside. Caleb was extremely worried. Phoebe and I quickly stepped aside to clear the way for him. Caleb charged inside. Isabella's clothes were torn to shreds, and the instructor's face was swollen. The woman beside them was gasping for breath. Caleb ignored the woman completely, glanced over, and punched the instructor in the face. "Did you hurt her?" Like a rabid beast, he threw punch after punch straight at the instructor's face. The instructor was completely unprepared for any of this. He was knocked to the ground in just a few blows, completely unable to fight back. Several boys who followed and quickly stepped in to pull them apart. Isabella was so frightened that she hid in a corner, screaming. Seeing this, the instructor's wife regained her fighting spirit. She snatched the vase from the table and smashed it over Caleb's head. "You're actually helping this bitch hit someone. I'll teach you to hit her. How dare you? Don't you know this slut is seducing my husband?" Caleb grunted, his eyes widening in shock before he could react. Then, he slumped to the ground. The sudden turn of events left us all frozen in shock. Finally, teachers from the campus security office arrived and separated everyone. The instructor and Caleb were taken to the hospital. 15. This incident immediately caused a huge uproar at school. Photos and videos from the scene were flying all over the confession wall. People were saying all sorts of things. In the earliest video I recorded, the instructor's wife's remark, "So this is the homewrecker." Ha! Instantly made the students form their judgment about the whole affair. The wife catches the mistress, and the sycophants come to cheer it on. The school's response was swift. The instructor was directly fired for having an improper relationship with a student. Isabella has been expelled for repeated violations of school rules. Caleb received a major disciplinary demerit for fighting unexpectedly. On the day Isabella moved out, Caleb was waiting downstairs again. He looked up at the photo from the floor above, and it was all over the place in under half an hour. The classmates marveled, calling him the world's #1 simp. Isabella, however, was not as grateful to him as he had expected. On the contrary, she absolutely detested Caleb. She believed it was Caleb's sudden intrusion that blew the whole situation out of proportion. That's what got her expelled from school. Caleb grabbed her arm, pleading desperately, "I've rented a place off campus. I'll always treat you right." Isabella pushed him away. "And then what? I follow you, hide away in that $1,000 a month apartment, and have to think twice about whether a 3-yuan steamed bun is too expensive for breakfast." "Caleb, what makes you think you have any right to stop me?" Caleb asked. "Wasn't I sincere enough with you? Didn't you say?" Isabella screamed. "Yes, I said I wanted sincerity, but I never said I'd want sincerity from a pauper." After saying that, she pushed her suitcase and headed straight for the school gate. Caleb paused for a moment, then caught up and asked, "But you were the one who approached me." Isabella stopped. "That's right, I was the one who approached you, but why did I approach you? I wanted you to go after Sienna." Caleb's expression froze. "She's gay," Isabella snapped. "Did you actually see her with a girlfriend? Couldn't she be bisexual? Couldn't it all be a lie? And even if she is a lesbian, don't you love me? Why can't you just put up with it for my sake?" Her words were met with a chorus of boos and jeers from the onlookers. Isabella shrugged indifferently. "See, everyone here just came to laugh at me. Do you have any idea what would happen if I were with you? I'd be a laughingstock for the rest of my life, a complete joke." With that, she walked away without another glance at Caleb, who stood there with his head bowed, talking on her phone the whole way. Coming towards her, walking in the opposite direction, was George, except he had his arm around another girl. He didn't even glance her way as they passed each other. Isabella, however, couldn't help but look back. This scene did not escape Caleb's notice. Now Caleb understood everything. His faith shattered. Clenching his fists, he charged toward Isabella without a word. Later, other classmates described the scene. "I've never seen anyone run that fast. It was like he covered the distance in mere seconds." Isabella was no match for him. In just 2 moves, she was slammed to the ground. Her head hit the concrete. It looked fatal on the spot. Caleb didn't run. He was taken away by the police right then. The school imposed a gag order on the whole incident, but as Isabella's simplest spread far and wide, the story was embellished with all sorts of bizarre twists and became widely circulated. As for those of us who personally witnessed the absurdity of it all, we were left in utter silence. Phoebe said, "It feels like a dream. How did it all happen so suddenly?" I said nothing. Only when lying in bed at night do I feel the pressure slowly begin to melt away. The arrows hanging over my head have finally all vanished, although in this lifetime, I cannot bring them to justice through the law, but the bright sunshine and fresh air seem to have returned to my side once more. I laughed silently, tears welling up in my eyes. "That's wonderful." Story 2. An old man abruptly cut across the road on his e-bike without even a glance back, swerving to avoid him. I overcorrected and got T-boned by an oncoming dump truck as I lay dying. The old man shuffled over to gawk, shaking his head with faint pity. "Just wanted some easy cash. Did you have to swerve so fast?" I was reborn just as the old man was about to jaywalk across the street. I immediately slowed down and pulled over to the curb. The old man was stunned, slammed on his brakes, and also stopped by the roadside. I kept my eyes on the old man up ahead, who kept glancing back at me from time to time. I thought I could avoid trouble by staying away, but this old man just wouldn't give up. I simply turned off the engine, grabbed a bottle of water to drink, and decided not to move. The scorching sun was blazing outside. The old man in front had been waiting for over 10 minutes and, seeing that I wasn't starting the car, kept looking back more and more frequently. He was getting visibly restless and fidgety. I'm in my electric car with the AC on, so I'm in no hurry at all. To my surprise, he pulled his e-bike over to the curb and started walking toward me. One, tap tap tap. He knocked on my car window. I rolled the window down a couple of inches. No change. My heart skipped a beat. Then I rolled the window right back up. The old man froze for a few seconds, then started pounding on the window again. "I'm not some damn beggar." I rolled the car window down again. The old man glared and said, "No parking here. Get moving." My heart sank. He wasn't giving up. The moment I start the car, he's going to pull an insurance scam. I looked him up and down. "Since when do you get to decide? Where's your armband?" The old man froze for another second. "What the hell is an armband? Damn, you don't even have an armband, and you dare boss people around here." Seeing I wouldn't budge, the old man was breaking out in a sweat. "Stop parking here. I'll snap a photo and fine you 200. Get moving now." I rolled up the window, reclined the seat, and started to sleep. Let the winds blow from all directions. I stand firm and unshaken. The old man slapped my car window a few more times, but when he saw I wouldn't budge, he stormed off in a huff. But how could I possibly sleep? Just before I died in my previous life, I'd already realized the old man was setting me up for a scam after being reborn. I never expected this old man to be so persistent. Even after I parked, he still wouldn't stop staring me down. I secretly watched the elderly man in front of my car, and to my surprise, he took out his phone and snapped a picture of my vehicle, still up to no good. I connected to the dashcam and saved the footage from this segment. The information I had from my previous life was too scarce. I only knew the old man had premeditated this, but as for why he specifically targeted me, I have no idea. This new energy vehicle I just bought isn't particularly expensive. What exactly has that old man got against me? If this isn't random harassment, then what's the real issue here? Suddenly, right before I died in my previous life, I vaguely saw someone, a familiar woman with a portly figure. No doubt about it, that woman watching the commotion over there is my ex-girlfriend, Phoebe. In my past life, she broke up with me just because I accidentally bought her lemonade instead of the season's first milk tea. She's been hanging out every day with that guy she just took as her sworn brother. She ended up gaining 30 pounds in just 1 month and got blocked by her sworn brother. Meanwhile, with her expenses out of the picture, I started living a less financially strained life. Matchmakers kept lining up potential dates for me, one after another. I even upgraded my car, so it wasn't just a coincidence in my previous life, me getting hit by that car and Phoebe happening to be right there. I immediately scanned my surroundings through the car window. I let out a derisive laugh. After searching for what felt like ages, I still couldn't spot that figure anywhere. Was it a hallucination before death? No way. I don't believe in dumb luck. If I get a second chance at life, I won't be naively kind anymore. I'm taking control. The old man is still standing in front of my car. He's actually on the phone. I couldn't hear clearly, but I decided not to make the first move. The old man was about 10 meters away from me. He parked his e-bike and started walking toward my car. This time he didn't knock on the window. Instead, he took a photo of the front of my car first, then walked around to the back to take another picture. Seizing the moment, I floored the accelerator and merged into the main lane. Speeding off without a second glance, in the rearview mirror, I could see the bewildered old man still standing there, cursing up a storm. He then plopped down on the ground, pointing at me while muttering something to passers-by. When no one paid him any mind, he scrambled back up, hopped on his electric bike, and came after me. By now I was already over 100 meters away from him. Unfortunately, the light up ahead turned red. I put on my turn signal to make a right, but got blocked by a few bikes waiting at the light. I was burning with anxiety, watching the old man close in on me. He shot me a venomous glare, but with so many people waiting at the red light, he didn't come over to start trouble. Meanwhile, I was anxiously waiting for the green light. As soon as the light turned green, I continued my right turn, but all the e-bikes had already taken off. Only the old man remained, steady as a rock. He kept watching me out of the corner of his eye, waiting to see if I would actually turn. How could I dare to turn now? Luckily, this right turn lane was a variable lane, so I just accelerated straight ahead and left the old man behind again. The old man kept chasing after me with relentless determination. I saw there were too many traffic lights ahead, and I knew this couldn't go on. Out of the corner of my eye, I spotted the large shopping mall ahead. The old man was still about 50 meters behind me, with a few cyclists in between. Seizing the opportunity, I drove straight into the mall's underground parking lot. After parking the car, I could almost hear my heart pounding in my chest. Just then, my WeChat notification chimed. It was my blind date, asking why I hadn't arrived yet. That's when I remembered why I'd driven out today. The blind date. I could only tell her I'd been in an accident and was sorting it out, but I'd be there soon. She urged me to hurry up, saying if I didn't want to go, I should just be straight with the matchmaker. After brushing shoulders with death, a lot of things just don't seem to matter as much anymore. So I told her I'd already informed the matchmaker that we weren't a good fit and called off the meeting. She actually got upset, insisting on waiting for me and demanding that I drive over to take her back. The moment I heard about driving, I immediately became alert. It felt rather abrupt for a girl I hadn't even met to ask me to drive her home. Ever since that near-death experience, I've become particularly sensitive about driving. I flat out refused and blocked him. After waiting in the parking lot for half an hour, I figured the old man must have left. Just as I was about to start the car and leave, I suddenly spotted a familiar stooped figure several rows of cars away. The old man had followed me to the parking lot. I followed him stealthily and faintly overheard him murmuring on the phone. I only caught a few curses, and I had a hunch they were directed at me. I cleared my throat, stepped into the elevator, and went straight upstairs. The old man heard my voice and hurried over toward me. I held the elevator for him. With security cameras in the elevator lobby, he could only glare at me with venomous eyes. Then I started wandering around the first floor. He followed behind me, shooting me vicious glances back and forth. After half an hour of walking, his stamina was clearly giving out. Then I headed up to the second floor, kept on browsing. The old man was visibly struggling, but mustered some inexplicable determination to keep up with me. After wandering around for another hour, I was starting to feel a bit tired. When I glanced back at the elderly man behind me, he was already drenched in cold sweat and looked pale as a ghost. I picked a fast food joint on the third floor and ordered a portion of dumplings. The old man plopped himself right across from me and briskly ordered 2 plates of the most expensive dumplings, plus 3 more portions to go. The complimentary pickles and dumpling broth ended up splattered all over the table. Everyone just minded their own meal. After finishing, I settled the bill and left. The old man had ordered too many dumplings and couldn't finish them. He stuffed a whole one in his mouth, but it was so hot he couldn't get a word out. He could only point at me as I tried to leave, mumbling incoherently. I completely ignored him. I hadn't gone far when the old man came running after me, too. He grabbed my arm and wouldn't let me go. "Hey, you haven't paid yet." I saw the staff member rushing out of the store after me. I pulled out my phone and showed them the payment confirmation screen. The staff member said I'd only paid for 1 plate of dumplings, but there were 5 more plates still unpaid. I said I only ordered 1 dish. Did a dog eat the rest or something? The cashier pointed at the old man and said, "Aren't you going to pay for what your dad ordered?" I chuckled and said, "I've never seen this old geezer in my life. You little punk made me chase you all morning. The least you could do is buy me lunch." I feigned a sudden look of realization. No wonder I felt like a dog had been following me all morning. My apologies for not realizing it was actually a person. I walked off without another glance. The shop assistant seemed to grasp the situation and held the old man back from leaving. The old man just dropped to the ground right there. He threw a tantrum, rolling around and vomiting dumplings all over the floor. I finally shook him off, got in the car, and drove straight home. It wasn't until I closed the front door that I finally let out a long sigh of relief. Less than a minute later, the police called. They verified the incident at the shopping mall's dumpling restaurant with me. They found out that I really didn't know the elderly man. Over the phone, I could still hear the old man groaning in pain. "My head is killing me. My chest hurts. I've got prostate pain." All 3 complaints were uttered in a faint, feeble voice. That line was delivered with such force and conviction. The rest wasn't my problem to worry about, but with the police around, that old man wasn't likely to get his way. What I didn't expect was that just as I was getting ready for bed, a hoarse, grating yell erupted from downstairs. "You, kid from the house with license plate 969, get down here right now." Then nobody's getting any sleep tonight. The fitness equipment downstairs was being banged with metallic clangs. Someone upstairs opened their window and started yelling. The old man counted the floors and went to pound on their door. The sound of a little girl sobbing in terror echoed from the apartment above. The group chat exploded. "Who owns car 969? Can you handle your own mess without dragging everyone else into it?" "Exactly. Go sort it out now before they dox you." I shut the windows, locked the door, silenced my phone, put on my noise-canceling headphones, and went to sleep. What does some old man making a racket have to do with me? Am I supposed to run downstairs every time someone shouts my license plate number? This lousy neighborhood has already driven away 3 different property management companies because of these residents. Less than 1% of homeowners have paid their property management fees. The neighborhood's cleanliness is only marginally better than a public restroom. They went to the community center to demand their rights, even as garbage piled up like mountains before their eyes. The community center said it's up to the homeowners to self-govern. Then they got into another fight over who should clean and who should take out the trash for this rundown neighborhood. Having the old man come and sort things out is like poking a stick in dry dung. A shitstirrer meeting his match. I slept fairly well through the night, though when I got up to use the bathroom, I could still hear a group of people cursing downstairs. Sounds like a fight broke out, and there were police sirens too. I checked my phone again and saw several missed calls. Scam calls are getting out of hand these days. Even coming in the middle of the night, I powered off my phone and went back to sleep. The next morning, feeling refreshed, I called that number back. Turned out it was a police officer following up with me. Someone had reported being hit by my car, and they'd been looking for me all night. Luckily, almost no one in the neighborhood knows me, let alone what car I drive or which building I live in. I explained the situation and provided the complete dashcam footage. The officer seemed to grasp the situation and told me to reach out if anything else came up. On my way to grab breakfast, I overheard the neighborhood aunties buzzing with excitement about the elderly gentleman's legendary showdown with a dozen middle-aged and senior residents last night. It started with shouting, escalated to spitting, and finally turned into an all-out brawl. The old man ended up with a swollen face after 3 aunties slapped him. An elderly woman said she recognized the man, notorious around the southern part of town as a lecherous old creep. He often loitered near School gates, pretending to pick up a child, then trailed behind any young girl walking alone. In quieter spots, he'd snatch their backpacks, and if they resisted, he'd take the chance to grope them. Finally, he'd plop down on the ground and cling to the little girl's leg, refusing to let go. Some school uniform skirts were completely torn when people threatened to call the police. The old man would pretend to have dementia and pull out a tattered tag with his home address on it. Passers-by, thinking he might be mentally ill, told the young girl to leave quickly. The old man would then slip away, and this trick worked every time. Some of the girls he terrified were too scared to go to school for days, others suffered sleepless nights haunted by nightmares, and some saw their grades plummet so badly they missed out on good high schools and ended up in vocational colleges. The most severe case was a girl who jumped from a window. Fortunately, it was only the second floor, and she was rescued, yet the old man roamed free, completely above the law. When confronted by parents, he'd just drop to the ground and play dead. Some even managed to swindle a few $100 out of them. Now I can't figure out why this old man has set his sights on me. While having lunch at the office, security called to say someone was asking for me. I assumed the old man had come looking for me. The security guard said it was some chubby girl. I stepped outside and saw it was my ex-girlfriend, Phoebe. Her bloated body and pudgy cheeks made her almost unrecognizable. The only thing unchanged was her spiteful, judgmental glare. She glared at me with a dark expression. I heard you went on a blind date after we broke up, and you got a new car. Why didn't you tell me? She spoke as if I owed her a fortune. I was picking my teeth with a toothpick. Got something to say or not? I haven't had my fruit yet. With that, I turned to leave. She grabbed my wrist, and a greasy sensation shot straight to my brain. What's with the attitude? So just because we broke up, you think you're off the hook? Even the worst players aren't as bad as you. What about my 3 years of youth? What about all the bubble tea you bought me? What about cooking for me every single day? That's hilarious. So now my past kindness is being used against me. Phoebe, you're the one who wanted to break up and run to your brother, remember? All this because I bought lemonade instead of milk tea. I'm not buying you bubble tea because I'm worried about your weight getting out of control. So your 3 years count as youth, but mine were just thrown to the dogs. Phoebe's eyes widened beneath her heavy lids, staring straight at me, as if she'd never heard me speak to her in that tone before. You, she sputtered, speechless with rage. Just you wait, I'm going to wipe that smirk off your face. She waddled away on her thick waist as I watched her retreating figure. Something felt off. All this ridiculous drama just to make these 2 points. I gave the security guard a couple of instructions. Sure enough, right after work started in the afternoon, commotion broke out at the entrance. The old man had already put up a banner at the company entrance. *** company vehicle *969 hit someone and fled the scene. This is an outrage against justice. But I had already warned the security guard, so he was prepared. The company gate was shut, with a sign inside that read, "This person is mentally ill. Do not approach." The old man was left outside shouting for a long time. He realized no one dared to approach. The banner was completely ineffective. When he turned around, bold letters behind the iron fence declared him mentally ill. The old man roared in fury, pounding on the iron bars as he strained to reach the sign planted on the ground, but the sign was positioned just out of reach, even with his entire arm stretched through the bars. His fingertips fell inches short. The old man tried all sorts of postures, just like a monkey trapped in a cage, and ended up rattling the barred door in a fit of helpless rage. A group of us watched the commotion from the floor-to-ceiling window upstairs. I let out a derisive laugh. None of them could see the banner, so they had no idea the old man was actually looking for me. Then a colleague who had just come in from outside came up to me and asked, "Isn't 969 your license plate number?" He said the police were already here. That's when everyone started staring at me with these weird looks. Security called and asked me to come to the entrance to verify the situation. The moment the officer spoke, I recognized his voice. Turned out we'd met before. I told him, "I was the one who called you this morning." Then it clicked for the officer. The old man was still yelling, accusing me of hitting him with my car. "Pay up or you're fired, or I'll be here every day making a scene. Anyone who lays a hand on him, and he'll have a medical episode right then and there." The officer wasn't buying his act and called an ambulance. I couldn't help but chuckle and told the old man, "No worries if you have a sudden episode. Our compassionate law enforcement initiative ensures immediate medical intervention the moment you collapse. Between injections and defibrillators, we'll revive you good as new." The old man took one look and decided against lying down. 3. He pointed at me demanding compensation, threatening to expose what kind of person I really am so I'd never find a partner. Something felt off the moment I heard it. "Uncle, how did you know I'm single? I've been married for over a year." The old man exclaimed loudly, "It's only been a month since your breakup." At this point, the old man suddenly covered his mouth, swallowing the rest of his words. I gave him a sideways glance. "What's Phoebe to you?" The old man's eyes were glazed over. "I don't know any goddamn deer or horse. Never heard of them." I said to the officer, "I suspect this person is related to my ex-girlfriend. After we broke up, she's been looking for revenge. She even threatened to have me beaten to a pulp. The old man glared. I have a recording and my ex-girlfriend's ID number. You can verify it. The officer, seeing the situation was escalating, pulled out a device to run a check. The old man panicked and tried to grab the device. He was then arrested for assaulting an officer and taken away in a police car. As I was leaving, the officer told me they actually can't just look up that kind of information without proper cause. I nodded knowingly. I gave a silent thumbs up to the police car driving away. That evening, while I was binge-watching a show, Phoebe called me just as I expected. I muted her and let her stew. I only picked up the phone after she went berserk on WeChat, threatening to come to my place and take us both out. What do you mean by getting my dad locked up? You're just doing this to get my attention, aren't you? I'm giving you a chance to buy the items from these links for me. Do that, and I might consider getting back together with you. As she spoke, I received several shopping links. She sent over a gold ring, a jade bracelet, a new designer bag. Altogether, it would cost over $10,000. I listened patiently until she finished and caught her breath. Then I turned on the call recording and asked, did you lose a game of truth or dare, or did you forget to close your head when washing your hair? I'm in the middle of chatting with a girl I just met. Stop bothering me. Phoebe was chewing on something with loud, smacking noises clearly audible through the phone. After hearing me out, she screamed hysterically between noisy bites. How dare you still talk to other women? My dad's getting out tomorrow. Just you wait. I'll make sure you die alone and single. You can't even order bubble tea right, you pathetic loser. How dare you have a better life than me? I feigned sudden realization. Was that old man following me these past 2 days your father? A venomous voice came through the phone. What's the matter? Scared now? My dad runs the south side. Crushing you would be child's play. Suddenly, it all made sense. No wonder you never let me meet your parents before we broke up. Honestly, I wouldn't have the guts to introduce my partner to my parents either. After what your father's done, even a female dog would piss as far away from him as possible. Phoebe fell silent on the phone for a few seconds. Pay up. The instant she started screaming, I hung up. Now I've finally confirmed it. This old man was definitely sent by Phoebe to mess with me last lifetime. His scam got me killed, and this time around, he still won't let me off the hook. Just then, an unknown number called. I hung up, but they called right back. The third time, I answered. The voice sounded vaguely familiar. After a few words, I realized it was the woman from the blind date I'd missed the day before. She said she was somewhat interested in me and wanted to add me on WeChat to chat. I told her I wasn't in the mood for blind dating right now. Clang, clang, clang. She said she'd never been rejected by a guy before and insisted on adding me on WeChat. A moment later, the friend request came through. I was about to decline. Suddenly, the background of this girl's profile picture looked familiar. Upon closer inspection, I realized that although the avatar had been processed with a cartoon filter, the background was unmistakably the community college campus where Phoebe graduated. Well, now I just had to send that friend request. I've known for a while that Phoebe has a close-knit group of girlfriends, though I've never met them. I could tell they're incredibly tight. I'd been wondering how that old man on the electric scooter happened to be waiting for me when he cut across the road that day, but if the woman I was set up with that day is also part of Phoebe's inner circle, then it all makes sense. She was the one who picked the restaurant. That was the only route from my place to the restaurant. I added her on WeChat and we exchanged a few messages. She was doing most of the flirting. We hadn't even been talking for 5 minutes before she suggested going to a movie, and of course she picked the place. Same old routine, insisted I drive, and then take her home after the movie. She even hinted at me coming up to her place. She even sent me a photo of herself with beauty filters cranked up to the max. It was a blatant attempt at seduction. I couldn't have asked for more. I'd been itching to settle a score from our past life, and now she was serving herself up on a silver platter. When the afternoon of our meeting finally arrived, the girl kept texting me nonstop. She told me to charge the car fully so we could chat inside with the AC on. What? Worried I wouldn't drive and the old man would have nowhere to hang out. I said the battery's fully charged. No problem taking one more person. So I hopped on my beat-up second-hand e-bike and headed over. The sun hadn't set yet, so I put on my sunglasses and hat. Just as expected, I spotted Phoebe waiting outside the residential complex, all dressed and disguised. She was clutching her phone, anxiously watching the main entrance. I rode past her on my electric bike, and she didn't even notice. Just a couple of intersections later, I spotted the old man waiting by the roadside, right along my usual route. He was still pushing that beat-up e-bike, sweating buckets from the heat. When I got to the cinema, I saw a very slender girl from a distance. Her calves are thinner than my arms. Despite her heavy makeup, I still recognized her as the girl standing closest to Phoebe in the graduation photo. I went over to say hello to her. She almost let out a gasp. You didn't drive here. I was a bit confused. Is the car parked downstairs? What's wrong? She tried hard to play it off, saying it's nothing, really, while secretly texting on her phone, probably tipping someone off. She was completely distracted throughout the entire movie. Nothing like the flirtatious persona she had on WeChat, constantly texting on her phone. She didn't even notice when I went to the restroom and never came back. She didn't frantically call me until the movie was over, demanding to know where I'd gone and why I hadn't stayed to watch the film with her. I told her she'd been on her phone all night and clearly wasn't into me, so I just left. She quickly explained there was some family emergency, which was why she'd been contacted on WeChat. I said I was heading home and asked if she needed a ride. After all, she was the one who suggested I drive so I could take her home. She even hinted at wanting to cool off in the car together, but then she quickly said never mind, told me to go ahead without her, and mentioned she had other things to do. She urged me to drive faster and take the most familiar route so she could video call me as soon as I got home. She just bought a new set of pajamas, another blatant attempt at seduction, making sure I'd take that same route back. I definitely took that route. Taking the long way on an e-bike would have been way too slow. I was cruising along slowly on my e-bike. From a distance, I could see the old man under the streetlight, propped against his e-bike and nearly asleep, his balding head nodding off. As I got closer, I noticed the old man's face and arms were covered in red mosquito bites. I gradually slowed down and approached. Hey, what a coincidence running into you here. The old man suddenly looked up. You didn't drive? Are you fucking asking for a beating? I twisted the throttle and sped up. The old man chased after me, cursing all the way. I rode ahead, humming a tune and maintaining a 10-meter gap. The old man nearly twisted the throttle clean off but couldn't close the distance. He could only curse furiously, gulping mouthfuls of the headwind that sent him into a coughing fit. Nearing the residential area, a wash basin-sized pothole loomed ahead. I gradually slowed down, and the old man drew closer to me. Then I suddenly accelerated and swerved sharply. To avoid the pothole, the old man, focused only on speeding up, rode straight into the pit. Just then, I heard a loud crash behind me. The old man's agonized groans followed immediately. Without breaking stride, I walked away. Phoebe was no longer at the entrance of the residential complex. She must have rushed to the scene of the old man's staged accident. When I got home, I found the blind date had sent me several messages. My friend saw you riding an electric scooter. Didn't I tell you to drive a car, and you show up with that attitude for a blind date? My only reply was, get lost. No more messages came through after that. You think you can outsmart me, you little brat. Just as I was about to sleep, the phone rang again. It was that familiar number and voice again, the same police officer, for he asked me what happened with my electric bike ride last night. I told him I wasn't sure. Some crazy old man seemed to be chasing me, so I pedaled like mad. No idea what happened after that, even now. My heart still racing from the scare. The officer's reaction was exactly what I expected. Let's check the surveillance footage. The old man started yelling again, accusing me of deliberately harming him, demanding compensation, and insisting the company fire someone as disrespectful as me. Then the call ended abruptly and never called me again. To my surprise, when I went to work the next day, Phoebe was sitting right outside the big boss's office. She shot me a venomous glare as I approached. Lee Mingho, you put my father in the hospital, and you think you can just carry on like nothing happened. I'll get you fired first. Let's see how you manage to date when you're unemployed. Without me, a loser like you would stay single forever. I heard every single word of what she said, but I just gave her a cold glance. The moment she saw my contempt, she nearly leaped up to grab me. Just then, the big boss arrived. She stormed into the big boss's office, crying and making a scene. Her hysterical wailing could be heard throughout the entire company. The big boss called me into his office. Phoebe was sitting on the floor, her hair a mess, but she looked at me with a triumphant gleam in her eyes. The corners of her mouth curled up, and I could read the words on her lips. You're done for. Then he pointed at me and yelled, Boss, this scumbag, he went on a blind date right after we broke up. He can't stand seeing me happy and keeps harassing me and my dad. Now he's hit my dad with his car and put him in the hospital, and he's still walking free while even the cops are taking his side. If your company keeps hiring people like this, I'll come here every day to make a scene, and when my dad gets out of the hospital, he'll be here every day too. I'll post this all over the internet. Phoebe spat out all her threats in one breath, panting slightly, then looked at me with even more smugness in her eyes. The big boss completely ignored her, sitting calmly in his chair as he waited for my explanation. Little did Phoebe know, the big boss had just gotten divorced because his wife had cheated on him. I explained to the big boss that it all started when I bought the wrong first autumn milk tea for my ex-girlfriend. She ended up hooking up with her sworn younger brother, then dumped me, and now she's green with envy seeing me go on blind dates. Upon hearing this, the big boss immediately shot a dirty look at Phoebe, who was sitting on the floor looking all puffy. Phoebe was still ranting, fire him. If he's not fired today, I'm not leaving. I'll go get my dad from the hospital and have him stay right here with you. The big boss picked up the phone, send all the security guards up here. Phoebe thought she had one, and she pointed at my face, yelling, how's that? Game over for you. A loser who can't even buy the right milk tea deserves to be single forever. I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through videos when Phoebe saw I was ignoring her. She extended her manicured claws from her chubby hands to scratch me, sitting on the sofa in the boss's office. I preemptively raised my foot to block her. Stay away from me. The sight of you right now makes me sick. I might just puke all over your face. Phoebe tried shifting angles but couldn't get close to me, so she yelled that I'd behave once security arrived. I scoffed, and the next second, 5 or 6 security guards came storming into the boss's office. Phoebe excitedly pointed at me. Throw him out. The security guards all looked at the big boss. The big boss coldly pointed at Phoebe. Anyone who lets this kind of person into the company again will be fired on the spot. Upon hearing this, several security guards immediately grabbed Phoebe and started dragging her out. She kept struggling on her own. You're all a bunch of scumbags, and I won't let you get away with this. Before she was out of earshot, the boss said to me in a loud voice, Shaoli, you've been doing great work lately. Do you think you're ready to step up as department manager? I replied just as loudly, thank you for your confidence in me, boss. Phoebe's scream echoed from outside. Until her voice faded into the elevator shaft, I whispered to the boss, when do I start my new position? I never expected my boss to understand me to this extent. This completely blocks Phoebe's path to targeting me through the company. What really caught me off guard was Phoebe actually posting it online. She even disclosed the company's name. The buzz was really heating up. The big boss saw it and immediately had our company's streamers ride the wave. Online supporters of Phoebe and me were going at it, with both sides locked in a heated argument. Before long, the whole debate escalated. Are scumbag men or scumbag women more despicable? It's not about life and death, but about right and wrong. A wave of controversial publicity directly doubled the company's product sales. Phoebe panicked and started a live stream to vent her grievances. The company's official account left a comment in her live stream, thanking her for the traffic boost. A few colleagues also chimed in, saying I'm definitely getting a promotion and raise. Phoebe lost it and started ranting angrily during the live stream. Then her account got suspended. My loyalty to the company has grown even stronger. The big boss was so pleased with how I handled the situation that I'm actually getting promoted in the next round. Phoebe can't get into the office anymore. She's now on the security team's watch list. I've stopped driving altogether and now commute directly on a second-hand e-scooter. I've spotted the old man several times on my route. He staked me out for days before realizing I don't drive at all, even on an electric bike. He couldn't catch up to me. I've started carrying a body cam with me everywhere now. The old man couldn't find an opportunity to stage his scam, so he shifted his operations to my neighborhood. He caused a scene for several nights and got beaten up multiple times by the local aunties. After finally figuring out which unit I lived in, they banged on the door for ages only to realize I wasn't even home. The father-daughter duo had run out of tricks, so then, the girl from the blind date started reaching out to me again. She thought she was still under the radar. This time they invited me to go fishing and camping at the reservoir. It's actually an undeveloped reservoir. I mentioned that the area is pretty remote and doesn't feel safe, she said. Fewer people is better, we won't be disturbed. She made a point of telling me to drive her there, said my car could double as a king-size bed, as if I were some insatiable horn dog. Didn't take a genius to figure out Phoebe put her up to it. I didn't hold back either, ready to take care of this family in one go, settling scores from our past life while clearing obstacles in this one. I asked a friend at the security company to hook me up with some gear stashed in the car. Then I went to the meeting spot to pick up Phoebe's best friend, the blind date. Throughout the journey, she was incredibly proactive, offering me sips of water and feeding me snacks. Even when I refused to eat or drink, she pretended to sulk. I just let her sulk. As a man reborn, those typical feminine tactics to manipulate me no longer work. After a long stretch of winding mountain road, she grew visibly tense, her eyes darting around nervously. By the time we reached the reservoir, evening had already fallen. Apart from the chirping of insects and the calls of unknown animals, there was complete silence all around. The woman on the blind date was clearly getting spooked. I made an excuse to go to the bathroom so I could make a phone call out in the middle of nowhere. Even though she lowered her voice, I could still hear her loud and clear. Where are you guys? I already sent you my location. Hurry up and get over here. I'm scared to death. Once the tent was set up, the timid woman from the blind date suddenly gained confidence. She started speaking much louder too. She even wanted to go fishing by the reservoir and dragged me along with her. I'd been hearing faint rustling sounds of movement not far away for a while, so I decided to stay put until they made a move. Soon after, screams erupted from the woman at the reservoir's edge during her blind date. I just kept grilling by my tent, letting those shrill cries from the reservoir rise and fall like some twisted symphony. With such delicious barbecue right here, why would I even think of going to the reservoir? The screaming went on for over a minute, long enough for me to polish off 2 lamb skewers. Finally, the screams began to fade. Moments later, the blind date woman came pushing through the tall grass, coughing into her hand. Didn't you hear me calling? She asked me with venom in her voice. No way, absolutely not. I heard you, I replied matter-of-factly, while grabbing a skewer of grilled pork belly, crispy on the outside, tender on the inside, bursting with Savory flavored, she screamed in a hoarse voice. You heard me. Why didn't you come to help? I immediately sprang to my feet. What? Were you in danger? I thought you were doing vocal warm-ups. The blind date woman nearly lost her balance. I asked with concern. Are you all right? What just happened? She panted heavily for a long moment before snapping irritably, ran into some wild dogs. Then she completely ignored me, though the aroma of grilled meat skewers soon made her stomach growl. Audibly, she's been chatting on WeChat for ages, probably plotting her next move. Meanwhile, I'm just waiting for nightfall. The blind date quickly resumed our conversation with a cheerful smile. Her acting skills are genuinely impressive. After we had eaten and drunk our fill, she took me by the hand for a walk by the reservoir. She was clearly getting excited and couldn't stop coughing. I pretended not to notice the rustling in the distant grass. By the reservoir, the woman I was on a date with linked her arm through mine. The night enveloped everything, with only the hazy moonlight offering a faint glimpse of the surroundings. She suddenly asked me to look at something, released my hand, took 2 steps back, and with a smile, slowly parted the front of her garment. A triumphant smile spread across her face. Footsteps rapidly approached from behind, growing louder and closer. A hunched black figure charged at me, reaching out to shove me into the water. Right beside us was the sheer drop of the reservoir embankment. I sidestepped. The shadowy figure about to reach me suddenly covered its eyes and let out a piercing scream. 5. I quietly put away the high-capacity pepper spray. My friend from the security company really came through. After howling in agony for what felt like an eternity, the shadowy figure lost its balance and tumbled into the reservoir. A loud splash, followed by fragmented cries for help. The woman from the blind date rushed to the bank and peered over. She was so frantic she began stamping her feet. I pulled her close and said, "Watch out, there are too many stray dogs around here." Good thing I reacted quickly. She grabbed my arm. "That's not a stray dog. That's Phoebe's dad. Hurry down and help him. That's clearly a stray dog. Why would Phoebe's dad come to this godforsaken place? There's not even anyone around to scam," the woman on the blind date shouted loudly. And soon another bloated figure crawled out from the bushes. "What did you do to my dad? How did he end up in the water? Lee, get down there and save him now. This is intentional murder." I was completely baffled. "What are you doing here with your dad? You two know each other." I remained unfazed, but Phoebe was losing it. They were shoving me relentlessly, trying to force me to jump. "I can't swim. Are you trying to get me killed?" Phoebe and the blind date girl wouldn't let up. The two of them joined forces again to push me over the edge. With just me and my spray can, I made them shriek and dance in agony too. Then I promptly called the police. "Let's wait for the cops to come rescue them. It's over an hour's drive from the city, but I'm sure the old man can hold on after all." The old man's voice from beneath the reservoir was so full of vitality and passion. By the time the rescue team arrived, the old man had been unresponsive for quite some time. Phoebe was pacing frantically along the reservoir's edge for over half an hour, but didn't dare jump in to rescue him. The old man seemed to have some basic swimming skills, as he was still breathing when taken for emergency treatment. By the time they stabilized him, he didn't recognize anyone anymore. The doctor said it was brain damage from oxygen deprivation. Phoebe told the police I assaulted her on purpose. The same officer I knew was still handling the case. He cautiously verified the details with me based on the timing and route Phoebe and I took. It's clear they were following me. Furthermore, my sports recorder shows that the elderly man tried to push me into the water I accidentally fell in, so I was immediately cleared of suspicion. Phoebe wasn't having it. She teamed up with the blind date woman to file a complaint against me, causing a huge scene at the police station. They both ended up in custody. I had a peaceful stretch after that. Ever since Phoebe got out, she's been giving me grief every now and then. She just can't stand to see me doing well, whether I go on a blind date, get a promotion and raise, or even just post about eating at a buffet on social media. She has to comment and berate me for wasting food by dining alone. Everyone who knows her says she's probably lost her mind. A few days later, on my way to work, I spotted the elderly man again riding his electric scooter as I was driving. I slowed down and kept my pace steady. He was wobbling along, humming a cheerful tune to himself. Suddenly, he let out a loud shout, "Out of my way, everyone." Without even looking back, he dashed straight across the road. He went right between the front and rear wheels of a dump truck. The scene was too gruesome to show. The traffic police later determined that the dump truck was operating normally, and the elderly man had entered its blind spot, making him fully at fault. Phoebe, refusing to accept this, rushed to the dump truck's worksite without even attending to her father's funeral arrangements. When they ignored her, she came to me, blaming me for not letting her father stage his usual accident scams, which she claimed drove him to target the dump truck. She demanded I cover all the medical expenses, just block them outright. I told her it was cooler under the big tree by the roadside and suggested she wait there. She kept shuttling between the construction site and my office, but it rained that day, and she ended up falling into a foundation pit at the site, leaving her with a severe spinal cord injury. She never bothered me again. Her so-called best friend took care of her for a few days, then vanished after getting her hands On all her money. It wasn't until the hospital bills went unpaid that Phoebe realized something was wrong and called the police. By the time they caught her friend, she had already gambled away every last cent. She ended up in prison. I lost touch with Phoebe after that. I moved into a new place, landed a new job, and started seeing someone new. It was the beginning of a whole new chapter. Story 2. It's been 56 days since the zombie outbreak. My best friend and I were sitting next to a fragrant hot pot filled with spicy red oil, nervously watching the footage from the surveillance room as we cooked slices of meat there. A living person appeared. 1. My name is Isla, a well-known wealthy heiress in City C. On March 4th, 2530, the zombie apocalypse descended. I happened to own a hot pot restaurant, which allowed me to escape the zombie massacre in the city, but it wasn't really my doing. It was all thanks to my dear friend Ruby. 2. 9 months ago, starting a business, Ruby placed some tripe into my bowl with her chopsticks and whispered, "Calm down, keep it down." No, but why would you have such a risky idea? Stop beating around the bush, just tell me if you're in or not. I stared at the swirling kelp in the spicy broth and hesitated. Well, it's not about the money, you know my dad warned me. With the fortune he saved, I can afford to live a life of leisure, but there's one thing I should never touch, starting a business. I sighed. Besides, I don't have enough money to start a business. Just give me the money you use for supporting Liam. That should be enough, Ruby said shockingly. Cough, cough, cough. I choked and coughed repeatedly. She raised an eyebrow. Am I right? Look at you, I said. Can you call it supporting? With such a natural beauty in the entertainment industry, it's a sure-win investment. Are you still with him? We broke up. He broke it off. No, I did, I said sadly. I consulted a fortune teller. My name is Isla, and his is Liam. The master said he drains my luck. Ruby couldn't help but laugh. I'm serious, I continued. Before my dad finalizes any deal, he consults this master and it's always accurate. Really? She asked. Then ask your master about the name I've chosen for the hot pot restaurant. She dipped her finger in the drink and wrote on the table. I looked down. The 4 characters read, Wasteland Hot Pot. 3. I still invested in Ruby's hot pot restaurant, but her subsequent actions baffled me. A bunker. Exactly. I want to open a bunker hot pot, she said nonchalantly. I pointed to the paper and worriedly said, but even if it's a bunker hot pot, this location is too far from the city center. How could it attract customers? We could choose a bunker in District X. That won't do. Too many people. She immediately refused. What I mean is, where there are more people, it becomes vulgar, Ruby said righteously. How can you and I mingle with the common folk? I'm confident I can turn this place into a well-known IP. Ruby chose a bunker built into a small mountain with 2 entrances, one next to a winding mountain road, quite spacious, and the other as an emergency exit, narrow enough for only one person to pass through. With the exit halfway up the hill, the bunker, built during wartime, was divided into 3 areas: electricity, storage, and living quarters. With a ventilation system and sewage system fully equipped, though many facilities were no longer operational due to years of neglect. That's not a problem, Ruby declared boldly. Let's get the door fixed first. Oh, how much do you need? She mentioned a number, and I stared at her, eyes wide with surprise. How much? That amount should be okay, she responded awkwardly. I was annoyed. That's enough to install several explosion-proof doors. That's actually my intention. What? We need not only explosion-proof doors but also fingerprint locks. She pointed at the blueprint, ensuring safety. No, we are opening a hot pot restaurant, not a bank, I said, confused. My protest was in vain. Ruby purchased 3 explosion-proof doors. One was installed at the escape passage, another divided the air raid shelter into 2 areas, and the last one was set up beside the mountain road. The door at the escape passage was surrounded by an electric fence, camouflaged with fake vines blending into the surrounding mountains. Barely noticeable unless looked at closely. Why install an electric fence? We haven't even got electricity yet. Don't worry. The generator will be delivered tomorrow. Ruby patted my shoulder. A generator? Yes, she nodded seriously. A diesel generator. The next day, when I saw 10 8-kilowatts mobile diesel power stations neatly lined up outside the air raid shelter, I felt dizzy. Ruby, what on earth are you planning? Listen to me explain. Oh, there's your phone. She pointed at my pocket. I answered the call. It was from my mom. After a brief conversation, I hung up, incredulous. Carter wants to go on a blind date with me. Carter, Ruby leaned in eagerly, the one whose family owns billions. He traveled all the way to City C just for the date. That didn't make sense. Could it be that he had seen my beauty on social media and fallen in love? The more I thought about it, the more plausible it seemed. I couldn't disappoint Carter's expectations. I'm going back to the city to touch up my makeup, I told Ruby after hanging up. Good luck on your date. She smirked. I drove home after some grooming and donning 10 CM Heels, I glanced at a tablet on the sofa. It was Ruby's, left at my place by accident. Recalling her unusual behavior, I impulsively checked her browsing history. How much rice does an adult eat in a day? How to grow vegetables without light? Can chicken coops be soundproof? Small-scale fish pond filtration systems? Barefoot doctor's manual? Breeding and care of sows? What, has she lost her mind? Had her profession driven her insane? I'd long advised her against studying to be an electrician. Just as I was about to put the tablet down, a line at the bottom of the browsing history caught my eye. Zombie virus. I didn't go on the blind date. I returned to the air raid shelter instead. Teams were busy, one installing sound-absorbing and explosion-proof materials on the walls, another fitting filters to the ventilation system, and another connecting and testing the circuits of the mobile diesel power station. Some were digging a hole, which they said Ruby asked them to turn into a fish pond. This was too much. Ruby was nearby, enthusiastically swinging a hoe. In less than 15 minutes, she stopped, grimacing. My shoulder is killing me. You're holding your wrist. My wrist hurts too. We should just hire someone. She blinked. Darling, it looks like we're in for more expenses. I grabbed a stool and sat down, cutting her off mercilessly. Get on your knees. I need to interrogate you. Why should I kneel? In broad daylight, I felt a vein throb on my forehead and decided to be straightforward. When will the zombie outbreak occur? She froze, turned her head, and stared at me motionless. I stared back just as still. After a long moment, Ruby said, in 4 months. It took her a long time to tell this story. In the story, the zombie apocalypse erupted on March 4th, 2530, and it quickly engulfed the world. There were two main reasons for the rapid downfall. First, the water sources were contaminated, reducing the human population by 2/3. Second, the zombies' hunting instincts awakened. They would gather and hunt in groups, a phenomenon we call the surge of the undead. She shuddered. It's the most terrifying disaster in the world. Do zombies evolve? Yes, after each surge, the zombies evolve. I was amazed. What do zombies become after evolving 3 times? You do ask some interesting questions. She glanced at me. I wasn't alive to see that. Sorry. She shook her head, lost in thought. Looking at her expression, she was recalling those bloody memories. I stayed with her for a while, then stood up. All right, let's get to work. Work on what? Preparing for war. Stocking up, I answered. I first called my parents to update them. According to Ruby, after the zombie outbreak, humans would quickly react and build shelters. After weighing his options, my dad chose a shelter. He said, when the apocalypse comes, the old elite will crumble. But only at the center of power will there be a chance to rise again. Elite or not, is that really important? I earnestly advised. Dad, your thirst for power is pathological, and you thirst for beauty. Have I called you pathological? That's my dad, silencing my endless chatter in one sentence. Fine, at over 50, it's his time to strive. Let him be. I turned to Ruby. Darling, should we get some ducks? Ruby's eyes widened, looking at me in horror. I paused, then exploded. I mean proper ducks. The kind with flat beaks. My parents divided their bank account into 2, one part for me, and another to build a secret base for emergencies. I've never seen so much money in my life. My hands trembled with excitement. However, the first issue was a tough one. Generators need diesel. An 8 kilowatts portable diesel power station consumes 6 liters per hour. That's 38 for liters a day. For a 5-year reserve, that's about 70,080 liters of diesel. Nearly 60 tons. The power area has a room for storing several hundred tons of diesel, so storage wasn't a worry. But diesel can't be traded privately. Where could I get it? As I pondered, Ruby came to me saying she had already solved this issue. Her connections were as beautiful as they were wild, with electricity sorted. Next was water. According to Ruby, water sources would be contaminated during the apocalypse. Therefore, storing water was crucial. An adult consumes about 2 liters of water a day. For the 2 of us, over 5 years, that's about 7,300 liters. Under the guise of regular purchases, we ordered 1,500 barrels of 5-liter purified water online. Additionally, I bought several domestic water storage tanks and a few industrial ones. We even brought in professionals to build 2 small water storage tanks to store water for daily use. I also purchased water purification and distillation equipment, along with an underground rainwater collection and purification system, just in case. Once the water storage was well underway, I began to plan for breeding and cultivation. Indeed, a full meal on one occasion is not as good as having meals regularly. I constructed a small eco-garden deep in the air raid shelter, complete with vegetable plots, a fish pond, and a chicken coop, all essentials included. The vegetable area is divided into a farming zone and a hydroponic zone, equipped with automatic irrigation and full-spectrum grow lights. The fish pond is fitted with an oxygenation system, a circulation filter, and an automatic thermostat. The chicken coop's interlayer is lined with soundproofing foam. I've also Stocked up on agricultural tools, fishing gear, feed, fertilizer, nutrient soil, seeds, hydroponic vegetable seedlings, nutrient solutions, and several tillers, all of which can basically be sourced from online marketplaces. Next, we moved on to the living area of Ruby, and I chose 2 adjacent chambers to serve as our living quarters. European king-size bed, check. Custom mattress, check. Velvet 4-piece set, check, check, check. Strangely, Ruby insisted on setting up 2 additional bedrooms not far from ours. Why arrange those? I was puzzled. Her eyes twinkled. In case we have guests. How could we possibly have guests? I was even more puzzled. Are you planning to make friends with zombies? She glared at me. What if your parents come? Right, that made sense. I wouldn't want my dad, a top-notch survivor, to come and find nowhere to stay, so we kept the rooms. I counted on my fingers. Since that's the case, I also need a walk-in closet, a bathroom, a gaming room. Let's add a study room while we're at it, since we have plenty of rooms. No, plenty of chambers. Do you want to set up a KTV room? Let's skip that. It's too noisy, I said sheepishly. Ruby remarked. As for the bathroom, the shelter already has that covered, along with a sewage system. Did you think I chose this place randomly? Right. Your foresight is commendable, I quickly added. Ruby refused to set up a gaming room, in her words, without the internet. How could we even think about gaming? I thought about it, and indeed, she had a point. However, she bought mahjong sets, playing cards, various chess games, table games, and murder mystery games, determined to challenge me. Why get mahjong if it's just the 2 of us? I'm preserving human civilization, she said seriously. To preserve human civilization, we set up a study. Ruby was in charge of buying the books. She pointed to a bookshelf and told me to seriously read the following titles: Barefoot Doctor's Manual, Practical Farming Techniques, Farmer's Guide to Wealth with Science, Quick Learning Material for Steelworkers, Practical Knowledge on Small Machinery Design, Friend of Dual-Use Talents for Military and Civil Purposes, especially this one. It's a treasure. She pointed to Friend of Dual-Use Talents for Military and Civil Purposes, saying, it covers everything from farming, building, fixing home appliances to landmines, firearms, rockets, even how to milk cows. Then it should be renamed Hand-Holding Guide to Starting Agriculture and Infrastructure from Scratch, I joked. That's a good title. I pointed to another book. I understand all this, but why is there 5-year college entrance exam, 3-year simulation? I thought it should preserve the essence of humanity. You're crazy. That's the dregs of humanity, I said. I installed a projector in the study, downloaded thousands of movies and TV shows, and bought Nintendo consoles, tablets, and Kindles. Now that's the essence of humanity. With this task completed, Ruby and I finally got to the main event, stocking up on food. With 2 months left until the zombie outbreak, it was about time. I pulled up a dietary nutrient intake reference chart and made a list. Long-lasting food items: carbohydrates, rice, flour, noodles, rice noodles, pasta, compressed biscuits, white sugar, rock sugar, proteins, protein powder, milk powder, soybeans, various dried meats, sausages, cured meats, vitamins and minerals, dehydrated vegetables, dried chilies, dried fruits, black fungus, kelp, seaweed, nuts, canned vegetables, canned fruits, convenience foods, self-heating hot pots, self-heating rice, snail noodles, instant glass noodles, etc., perishable foods, fresh vegetables, fruits, meat, eggs, milk, tofu, etc., seasonings, oil, salt, soy sauce, vinegar, cooking wine, and various spices and hot pot bases. Taking action immediately, I started by purchasing 5 205-liter freezers and 2 301-liter refrigerators to store our food. We'll need to add a few more high-power generators and soundproof them, Ruby muttered. An adult consumes about 200 grams of meat per day, and unfortunately, the shelf life of frozen meat is only 1 year. If taste is not a concern, this can be extended to 2 years. That means we need over 580 kilograms of meat. Under the guise of stocking up, we amass various amounts of beef, lamb, pork, and chicken to meet our target. We also stocked up on river and sea delicacies, along with animal offal. The more dried meat, the better. Additionally, we purchased 1,000 kilograms each of rice, flour, and white sugar. White sugar is a controlled item, which took some effort to procure. Eventually, Ruby leveraged her connections to gather the required amount. The warehouse was treated for humidity and mold and equipped with rodent and insect repellents. The list of other essentials was also fully prepared, especially self-heating hot pots, self-heating rice, luosafen, hot and sour noodles, and plenty of instant noodles. We made several trips to the Supermarket, clearing out the shelves of our favorite snacks and drinks. Next up were the daily necessities: toothpaste, hand soap, shampoo, shower gel, laundry soap, laundry detergent, dishwashing liquid, toilet paper, wet wipes, facial tissue, and sanitary pads. I also set up a bathroom with a bathtub, using a large industrial water storage barrel connected to the sewage system. Heating the water was a bit of a hassle. We had to heat it manually. Speaking of heating water, I realized we needed more fuel. We couldn't rely solely on the tons of diesel we had. I ordered 100 boxes of smokeless charcoal, 100 boxes of solid alcohol, and 100 boxes of candles from Taba and JD.com to serve as sources of heat, cooking, and lighting. We installed air conditioning in the bedroom and bought various heating devices like electric heaters, oil-filled radiators, heated carpets, and water-heated blankets. Ruby said, I bought 5 10 kilowatts generators and 2 30 kilowatts generators. Actually, I calculated it, and 8 kilowatts generator would be sufficient. Higher power means more fuel consumption, so avoid using high power generators unnecessarily. I was skeptical. Are you sure that will be enough? I'm an electrician, she replied disdainfully. A month before the zombie outbreak, my mom visited. She brought a pair of homing pigeons, which had 3 nesting sites: the shelter, my parents' secret base, and here. My mom advised me to dig a small room next to the entrance with ventilation holes big enough to stick out ahead for use as a shooting point. Shooting? You make it sound like I have a gun. You don't, my mom exclaimed, wide-eyed. Where would I get something like that? I was about to speak when Ruby returned. She drove up in a very conspicuous modified off-road vehicle, sticking half her head and an arm out the window, excitedly waving at me. Nice car, I genuinely complimented. Ruby dragged several large boxes out of the trunk. Dear, look what I got you. What could it be? I took the package she handed me, and its cold touch startled me. I mouthed the word, guns. She nodded proudly. All kinds of models. Seeing my stunned expression, she leaned in and whispered, and a few heavy machine guns. Oh, and explosives. Where on earth are your connections from? Buddha says it's indescribable. With my security now assured, my mom left feeling relieved. Following her advice, I built an observation post at the exit of the safety passage and made 2 ventilation holes. As for the exit by the roadside, blast it. Are you sure? I'm sure, I said. Did it explode? Yes, I nodded vigorously. Boom. You didn't tell me earlier. I even installed a blast-resistant door. We both decided to move the door about 10 meters inward to leave some empty space. We could blow it up once the supplies arrived. Actually, there's no need to blow it up. Just fill it with soil. At this point, the surveillance cameras were also fully installed, covering the entire bunker. Ruby, who was in charge of procurement, received the medical supplies. Apart from the usual cold medicine, stomach medicine, anti-inflammatory drugs, painkillers, allergy medication, vitamin C tablets, antibiotics, and various supplements, there were also many unconventional drugs, as well as masks, alcohol, iodine, gauze, band-aids, syringes, indwelling needles, and other medical and health supplies. I was astonished. Do we need this much? You don't understand. After the collapse of order, medicines are important for trading, Ruby explained. There's still a market for trade. Yes, the biggest one was set up after the shelter was established. According to her, tobacco and alcohol could also be used for trading, so I stocked up on a lot of these, as well as gold. Will we really need this stuff? She wondered. I was confident. Things that are inherently monetary will always become currency. In the last 2 weeks, we checked for any oversights and bought various miscellaneous supplies. By then, the door was also sealed, and plants were grown on the surface for camouflage. How will we get in? I pondered. Let's climb the mountain and enter through the back door, suggested Ruby. Luckily, I had turned off the electrical grid. We finally managed to climb through a gap in the electric fence to the back door, both of us breathing a sigh of relief. Time flew by, and the final moment arrived. On the day of the zombie outbreak, I couldn't find Ruby anywhere. Checking the surveillance, I found her squatting at the edge of the vegetable garden, digging in the soil. For some reason, I felt a bit anxious. What are you doing? I joined her in the garden. She didn't answer, but instead pointed at a lush green sprout in the ground and asked me, what is this? I chuckled awkwardly. A grapevine. That's good. She nodded. How long until we can eat them? 2 years, she laughed. Wonder if we'll live that long. Seeing her troubled expression, I hurriedly reassured her. Of course we will. Look at all the supplies we have here. We can survive forever, and if one day we don't want to just survive, we can take some and go to the shelter. That would be reaching the pinnacle of life. While I rambled, she casually scrolled through Weibo. Suddenly, she exclaimed, oh, what happened? Did the zombie outbreak start? No, she couldn't contain her amusement. Your ex changed his name and made the hot search. Stop joking, really. Look, she held up her phone to my eyes. I looked closely, and the top trending topic on Weibo Was #Liam changed his name to Noah #. I was puzzled. Ruby shook her head. He really believed your nonsense. He's trying to get back together. With such a big event like the zombie outbreak, you didn't even think about him. That's heartless. Remembering the past, I felt a twinge of sympathy and thus pulled out my phone to send a message to Liam. Or rather, Noah, stay home, stock up on supplies. Get plenty of drinking water and don't go outside. After sending the message, I put my phone back in my pocket. Can you really let go? Why don't we just tell him to come over? Ruby joked. No, I said firmly, you only live once. And as for men, there are plenty out there. She gave me a thumbs up. I sighed sentimentally. This darn charm of mine. Just so you know, I didn't go on that blind date with Carter, but he kept contacting me several times. It's really unfortunate. Ruby looked a bit strange. She muttered to herself. Well, it's about time. Time. What time? I suddenly tensed up. The zombies coming. No, it's dinner time. I'm hungry. Speaking of which, when exactly are the zombies supposed to show up? I can't remember clearly. Maybe around 2 or 3 in the morning. She replied, late at night. I couldn't sleep. Every so often, I would check Weibo, but there was still no news about zombies. Just as I was about to fall asleep, I suddenly heard a strange noise coming from the ventilation duct. Like something had exploded far away. Startled, I grabbed my binoculars and ran to the lookout station, nearly bumping into Ruby, who had also heard the noise. I brought the binoculars up to the observation hole. Not here, not here, not here either. This is it. This is the highway entrance of City C. A car had flipped over and was burning fiercely. An injured person lay beside it, his condition unknown. A group of people stood around him, one of them performing CPR. Ruby exclaimed with a tremor in her voice. What's wrong? Look at his leg. Only then did I notice. The injured man's leg was twisted in a very strange angle. Suddenly, his body jerked and he convulsed. Not good, I blurted out. In the next second, the man leaped up and bit a woman's throat. His face, smeared with blood, clung to her as he furiously tore at her. It was clear he was no longer human. Everyone present was stunned by the sudden change. Screaming and running in all directions, 2 zombies staggered to their feet. They wandered around for a while and quickly disappeared into the night. I put down the binoculars, my palms wet with sweat. Ruby was speechless for a good while. Is he patient 0? I asked. Ruby said, who knows, but his threat isn't greater than that of the water source. The zombie virus only has 2 transmission routes, through zombie bites and water. Thankfully, it's not airborne. After witnessing such a bloody scene, I lost all desire to sleep. I ran to the control room and thoroughly inspected all areas of the fallout shelter, then browsed the internet for several hours. The internet was in an uproar. Zombies. Humanity is doomed. Don't touch the water. It's contaminated. That was the last call from my mom. I don't have a mom anymore. Water. Why bother? I might as well go downstairs and let a zombie bite me to death. That's right. If you can't beat them, join them. Humanity is really finished. Humanity has committed many sins. And sooner or later there will be retribution. Are you okay? No. Am I poisoned by mushrooms? There's a group of people howling like wolves under my building. Congratulations, buddy. Those are zombies. Zombies. Is this a side effect of eating mushrooms? I continued scrolling and came across a message. Now it's March 5th, 2530. I've been bitten, and it's regrettable to say goodbye to the world this way. Farewell, world. I've never found you so beautiful. My nose tingled, and tears welled up in my eyes. Am I being too selfish? Should I save a few people? No. I shook my head. Only human hearts are evil. I can't take that gamble. In this apocalypse, all I can protect are the most important people. Having realized this, I went straight to sleep and, surprisingly, had a dreamless night. The next day, I was awakened by faint, dismal screams coming from the ventilation ducts. The sounds were strange, like those of a wild beast, yet also human. I went to the lookout station, and Ruby was already there. I lifted the binoculars and couldn't help but gasp. What a hell on earth. Focusing on any corner of City C, I could see wrecked vehicles, scattered supplies, spattered blood, and oddly positioned people. They were certainly not human. Overrun. In just one day, I said miserably. Ruby didn't respond, just patted my shoulder comfortingly. That's how we started our life, coexisting with zombies. It was then I realized how correct Ruby's initial decision was. The bunker was far from the city center, avoiding most dangers. We didn't have to worry about the lighting or noise inside alerting zombies or malevolent people. Of course, aside from the occasional car speeding down the highway, I hadn't seen many people. I was utterly in awe of Ruby that day. After Ruby had maintained the generator, she saw me walking out from the depths of the bunker with a gun in hand. She flinched. What are you doing? Practicing shooting. I had taken a few rubber training guns to practice with. She pointed at the vegetable garden. What are these? Oh, crown daisy, cilantro, leeks, spinach, pea shoots. I'm not sure if the Supplementary lights are effective, but I planted some shade-tolerant vegetables. On the other side of the garden, there were also chili peppers, tomatoes, and potatoes that had been planted but hadn't grown yet. She stared blankly for a while. I'm hungry. Let me know what you want to eat, and I'll make it. I want some noodle soup, Ruby said. The request of a lifesaver must be fulfilled. I flipped through the complete cookbook of delicious recipes and finally found the recipe for the noodle soup: minced pickled vegetables, minced ginger, minced garlic, chopped green onions, 2 spoons of chili oil, a little soy sauce, a pinch of Sichuan pepper powder, a little salt, MSG, a few sesame seeds, and lard. All these ingredients go into a bowl, then boil water in a pot, add noodles and greens, pour the hot soup into the bowl to mix, then add the cooked noodles and greens, and top with a fried egg. It was so easy. Following the instructions, I managed to make 2 delicious bowls of noodle soup. We took the noodles into the audio-visual room, watched Empresses in the Palace, and enjoyed a hearty meal. Sweat beaded on my forehead as I ate. To enjoy such delicacies in a hell on earth. Wasn't this a generous gift from fate? Before I knew it, a week had passed. Some areas of City C had already lost power, though some public lighting was still on. At night, City C looked like a colorful patchwork on a black canvas. Could this be the legendary colorful darkness? The air was also filled with a rotting smell. The appearance and mobility of the zombies hadn't changed much. The decay wasn't rapid. Since moving into the bunker, the thing I've done most is use the binoculars to look for traces of survivors. One day, I spotted a young couple venturing out and were quickly noticed by the zombies roaming their neighborhood. The zombies lunged towards them. The two seemed prepared and quickly split up. The woman ran towards the parking lot, while the man used a stainless steel basin to make a loud disturbance, drawing the zombies towards him. I thought it was a life-for-life situation and my heart was in my throat, but then I saw the man throw the basin far away. The noise of it hitting the ground attracted the zombies, and they all turned to chase after it. A few zombies at the front realized something was wrong and continued pursuing the man. Just as they were about to catch up, the man pulled out another stainless steel basin from his coat. Watching this, I laughed heartily, clearing away the gloom of the past few days. In this manner, the man threw several basins and successfully reached the parking lot. Once he got into the car, the woman at the driver's seat stepped on the accelerator, and the car sped away. The efforts made by our kind for survival are truly awe-inspiring. I took out a notebook and a pen and recorded March 12, 2530, observed survivors. 1 male and 1 female. The man used a stainless steel basin to create noise and cover the woman's escape, and he also successfully escaped. Zombie evolution: none form, human-like, intelligence, none characteristics, extremely fast and sensitive to sound. What are you doing? Ruby suddenly slapped me on the shoulder. I jumped. She took the notebook in her hands, clicking her tongue in admiration. Wow, I didn't expect you to be so observant. It's really that meticulous. No, slipping through the cracks. Slipping through the cracks isn't really a compliment, I replied helplessly. She picked up the binoculars, stuck her head out in a pretentious manner, and scanned around. Let's see if anyone has escaped from the zombies. What's wrong? She didn't speak, fiddled with the binoculars again, and her expression gradually became serious. Speak up. What's going on? Ruby pulled her head back in, stammering. There's a car. What about a car? Be more specific. 2 people. About 600 meters from us, at the road bend. Ruby finally spoke coherently. They got out of the car. Seems like they're looking for something. Seems like they're coming towards us. It's rare to see vehicles fleeing midway and stopping. Hearing this, I also felt suspicious and raised the binoculars myself. Indeed, a man and a woman were lingering at the road bend. The man was pointing at the cliff wall, seemingly explaining something. The more I watched, the heavier my heart sank. They were looking for the entrance to a bomb shelter. I turned and ran towards the cave, but Ruby grabbed me. What are you doing? Her face was pale. I'm going to get a gun, I managed to say, trying to keep my voice steady. A gun? Ruby looked even more frightened, but after hesitating, she let go of me. I quickly retrieved a handgun. By then, the man and woman had moved their car about 300 meters forward and started a new round of searching. It seemed they were not familiar with the structure of the bomb shelter. I adjusted the aim of the gun while quickly thinking, why had these people come here? Were they instigated by someone, or did they already know about this place? I tried to recall their faces. Alas, I have face blindness. I couldn't remember it all. Do I really have to kill them? I had thought about it. In an apocalypse, it's hard to ensure that my hands remain clean, but this day came too quickly. My hand holding the gun trembled slightly. They're coming, Ruby whispered. Indeed. The sedan slowly approached. The vehicle came to a stop, impartially positioned just below the lookout station. I quickly pulled Ruby aside to hide. Vines concealed the door and the air vents. I could only hope they wouldn't look too closely and would leave on their own. Unfortunately, reality was disappointing. After searching for a while, the two quickly discovered the door and let out excited shrieks. In a flash, a zombie suddenly emerged from the cliffside by the road. It lunged at the man who was closer. He hesitated for only a second before grabbing the woman by the arm and throwing her towards the zombie with ruthless decisiveness. The woman was stunned, tumbling down the cliff with the zombie before she could even scream. Ruby wanted to scream but dared not, covering her mouth tightly with her hands instead. Cold sweat dripped down my forehead. This was the apocalypse. In the apocalypse, there is no room for compassion. The man retrieved a chainsaw from the trunk and headed towards the air raid shelter. 20 meters, 10 meters, 5 meters. It was time. I fired a shot. The bullet struck the ground in front of him, kicking up a cloud of dust. The man staggered but managed to keep his balance. He looked up and saw Ruby and me behind the air vent. I waved the gun in my hand at him. Buddy, go back where you came from. Don't make me send you off. He stood there, frozen, a mix of despair, pain, and fear flashing across his face. Finally, he bent his knees and knelt on the ground. I frowned. Please, let me in, he pleaded urgently. You ladies are kind-hearted. Just a bit of your supplies to feed me would be enough. Ruby tugged at me and whispered, just give him some food and send him on his way. I shook my head. I'm not planning to let him go. You mean? Her face turned pale, ignoring her. I continued to question the man. You can come in, but first you must tell me, how did you know about this place? I helped move things for you, so he was one of the movers. Did you come here alone? His eyes darted around, involuntarily glancing down the cliff, then answered, yes, just me. I scoffed inwardly. Then asked, did you tell anyone else about the supplies here? No, absolutely not. I swear to God. I sighed. I'm done asking questions. He suddenly realized, you're not going to let me in, nor will you let me leave, right? Reacting quickly, I raised my gun as he also quickly made a dash for the sedan, cursing as he ran. Bitch, I'll bring more people here. I'll tell them there are supplies. A bullet struck his leg. He fell to the ground, crying out, don't kill me. I don't want to die. Please, my hand trembled violently as I aimed the gun at his head. I'm sorry, I said softly. The bullet whistled out, striking his temple. The man fell, blood seeping into the soil beneath him. I remained in my shooting stance, my mind blank. Ruby's voice seemed to come from far away, gentle yet with an imperceptible tremble. It's over, put it down, put the gun down. That night, I came down with a high fever. I had a dream. I dreamed of the man, wielding a chainsaw, grinning menacingly as he approached me. I tried to shoot, but I couldn't pull the trigger. He kept advancing towards me. I saw a dark bullet hole in his temple. I woke up gasping for breath. Ruby sat by my bed, holding a bowl of steaming soup. Awake, drink the ginger soup, she said, touched. I propped myself up, still groggy, and took a sip. How much ginger did you put in? I asked warily. She pondered seriously. Not much, just 8 or 9 pieces. If you have something against me, you can just say it. No.